Assalamu alaikum to all of you, dear students. As we are already studying the first unit of your bioscience section, the fundamental unit of life, that is cell. We have already discussed why is cell called as the basic structural and functional unit of life. Cell is called the basic structural and functional unit of life because all the functions, whatever necessary or vital functions, are to be carried out in order to sustain life that are carried out by the cell. So, like the function of respiration, function of digestion, locomotion, respiration, excretion, reproduction, all these functions are called as life processes. These life processes are necessary for a living being, for an organism to carry out so that the life is sustained or life is contained in a living organism. If a living organism fails to carry out these life processes or life functions, he or she or that organism cannot be called as alive. So, to carry out these functions, cell is very much important. So, cell is the basic, the fundamental unit which carries out all the basic functions of an organism. That's why cell is called as the basic structural unit of an organism. In the same way, different organisms have different structures. Whether a living organism is a plant or it's an animal, they have a structure. They have a well-defined structure, and the structure is maintained, or the structure is because of the cell. So cell is also called as the structural unit of life. So in aggregate, we call cell as the fundamental unit of life because all the structural and functional functions are carried out by the cell. So every cell has a typical structure. We have discussed it. There is many differences between a plant cell and an animal cell because both plants and animals are called as living organisms, and there is difference in their structure. But there is a typical structure. So there are many organelles which are found in both plants and animals, and there are certain organelles which vary in plants and animals. For example, plastids are present in plant cells, but they are absent in animal cells. Like there is a large vacuole in plant cells, but in animal cells, vacuoles may be absent or they are very minute, very small. In the same way, there is a cell wall in addition to the cell membrane or plasma membrane or plasma lemma in plant cells. There is additional layer, a protective layer that we call as cell wall, which is present in plant cells, but it is absent in animal cells. So there are so many cell organelles that in the both plant or animal cell are in a cell. Like there is a central nucleus, there are plastids, there are mitochondria, there is endoplasmic reticulum, there is Golgi apparatus, there is ribosomes, and many more. Endoplasmic reticulum. Then endoplasmic reticulum of two types. We have already discussed rough endoplasmic reticulum having these ribosomes on it. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum that is also named as SCR, that is devoid of or that is lacking ribosomes. So another cell organ in the plants or animals, that is ribosomes. So there are so many cell organelles which are present in a cell. We have discussed many of them, and today I am going to teach you about mitochondria. Mitochondria is a cell organelle which is a double membrane bound cell organelle, or it has two membranes. It has two limiting membranes. The outer membrane, it is a smooth structure, but the inner membrane, it is enfolded. It is unfolded. There are so many finger-like structures in the inner membrane. It is a folded structure. There are finger-like structures in this inner membrane of the mitochondria. These finger-like structures, they are called as cristae. Cristae. So, endoplasmic, this mitochondria has a double membrane structure. The outer membrane is smooth. The inner membrane is enfolded into so many foldings, and these foldings we call as cristae. This mitochondria, it's also known as powerhouse of the cell. Powerhouse of the cell. Why is it called the powerhouse of the cell? We must know why is mitochondria called as the powerhouse of the cell. Power means energy. We living beings take food, and the main purpose of this food is that we get energy out of the food. If we don't get energy, we can't carry out the different life functions, and it's very necessary that we should carry out these life processes. As I already told you, that we should carry out respiration, we should carry out locomotion, we should carry out digestion, etc. For these all activities to carry out, we have to move from place to place. We have to grow, and all these activities, they need energy. And this energy comes from food. The nutrition, the food which we take, the energy, that is the prime source of energy. So, this energy comes from the food, and the mitochondria, this very cell organelle, it is the main site of respiration. Site for respiration is mitochondria, or mitochondria is the site where respiration takes place. So what is respiration? We most often intermingle the term respiration and breathing, but there is difference between respiration and breathing. Breathing means we take in, for example, animals, they take in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. It's simple, but respiration is oxidation of food. Oxidation of intake of gas, then oxidation of food. That's called as respiration. So food gets mixed with oxygen. It's called as oxidation of oxidation. Oxidation means addition of oxygen to something. So this oxidation means food is added with the oxygen. It means that there takes oxidation of food. After oxidation of food, energy is released, and a waste product, carbon dioxide, is produced in the animals. So in the organisms. So what is respiration? Respiration means addition of oxygen to the food, and thereafter release of energy and carbon dioxide. So this energy comes out of the food by means of a process that we call it respiration. And why does this respiration take place? This respiration takes place in the mitochondria. So this mitochondria is known as site for respiration. And what is the outcome of respiration? That is energy. That is energy. So this mitochondria is called as powerhouse of the cell, because power comes out. Power is generated. Power is generated in the mitochondria. So it's called as powerhouse of the cell, because energy generation takes place in the mitochondria. So the main function of the cell organelle, mitochondria, is that it produces energy, and that's why it's called as powerhouse of the cell. So, for example, energy is created in the cell, and all of this energy is not utilized instantly. We need to store some sort of energy, because we don't keep on eating, we don't keep on taking food regularly or continuously. we take breakfast, then there is a gap of 2 or 3 hours, then we take our lunch, after that we take dinner. So we need energy regularly to carry out these functions, to keep ourselves alive. For that, we need to store energy. All of the energy is not consumed at one go, so we have to store energy. And this energy is stored in the form of ATP. ATP. Full form of ATP is adenosine triphosphate. Triphosphate. And this ATP, it is also known as energy currency. Energy currency. We took food, we undergo nutrition. Then after that, respiration took place in the mitochondria, energy generated, and some of that energy is stored in the form of energy, so that this energy remains as a currency with us. We can use it, we can utilize it, we can make use of it in the future whenever we need energy. So this ATP is known as energy currency of a cell, so that it may be used in future whenever required. Another feature of mitochondria is that it has its own DNA. It has its own DNA and ribosomes. DNA, you know, deoxyribonucleic acid, a sort of genetic material. While our genes are present, genes are the carriers of our traits, of our characters. Genes are the characters which we inherit from our parents, from our ancestors. So these DNA and these ribosomes, you know, are the site for the production of proteins. Proteins are produced in the ribosomes. So this mitochondria, it's a unique feature that it has its own this DNA and ribosomes. So it has a property that it can produce its own proteins, because it has both. For the production of proteins, you know, we need RNA, we need genetic material, and we need ribosomes, and it has got both of these things, and it can produce its own proteins, and it's able to have an independent existence. So it is another function of mitochondria. So for today it's enough. So we can recall that mitochondria is called the powerhouse of the cell, because in mitochondria is the site for respiration, and because of the cellular respiration we are able to get energy. So energy is produced in the mitochondria, so we call mitochondria powerhouse of the cell. Thank you.